Maine Wicked Fresh chat series, and I'm really excited to get your questions. So let's get started. And to begin, just simply type your question into the Facebook box or the US stream box, and we're ready to go. So the first question is, what inspired you to write the Gorgeously Green book series? And this is from Spencer. So Spencer, what inspired me to write the book series? Well, initially it started out as just the book Gorgeously Green. I wasn't thinking series necessarily at the beginning. And what inspired me to write that book was that I was very passionate about the environment and about taking care of the environment in any way I could. But I was aware that there was a huge divide. So there were the environmentalists over there, and I was dabbling in that world and learning a lot actually. But it was all quite sort of male. It was going to sort of water treatment plants and solar panels and worm composting facilities and all of that. And I was trying to do that. And then on the other hand, the other life or the other foot that I had in the other world was the sort of girly girl world of all my friends really, who just live a pretty normal life and shop and we love designer things and painting our nails and doing our hair, and also on not such a superficial level, just women who live a very normal life and need convenience and need it to be easy. And so I thought, how can I bridge that gap? There's got to be a way, because if I'm asking all these women over here to do what they're doing over there, they're going to just go, I don't think so. And pretty much I'm like the designer shoe crowd. I'm like, there's no way that I'm living in a yurt with a compost toilet. That's just not my thing. So Spencer, long answer to your short question, but basically I wanted to bridge the gap, and I was quite convinced that I could create a way of living that was eco-friendly but was also gorgeous, that was thrilling and fun and exciting and would have me wanting to get up in the morning and just embrace this way of living. And I found that way of living, and then I wrote the book because I wanted to share it with as many women as I could. So that's that. Another question here. So what is the single biggest impact you think women have on the planet? What tweak can we make to drive significant change? Well, I wrote my book for women. And the reason why I wrote it for women is, number one, because I regard myself as pretty reflective of a normal type of girl. I'm a mom, I'm a working woman, full-time job. And so I thought, you know, there are droves of us. I mean, me is everywhere. And we make a lot of decisions during the day. And we, as women, for the most part, we decide what comes in and out of our home. We decide what we're going to eat, what our family's going to eat. We decide what we're going to buy. We decide how we're going to raise our children. We decide. And it occurred to me that because we make these decisions, we're very, very powerful. And so the biggest shift we can make is not like some huge difficult action that I've now got to start doing some crazy, weird, different way of living. But that with all of my little decisions and actions that I take during the day, be they I'm going to use this toothbrush, or I'm going to recycle this or not, or I'm going to put a low flow shower aerator in my shower, there's maybe, I don't know, 400 decisions that we make a day. And the big shift is that if those little teeny decisions are better decisions, then cumulatively we are a force to be reckoned with. So another question, how do you balance family with a busy career? Oh, from Annie. Annie, it's really difficult. I think balance is my biggest challenge, probably actually for most people now in this modern tech society that we all live in, with everything coming at us all the time, and balance is tough. I think how I do it is structure. And I've really learned over the last 3 years, because I've written 3 books in 3 years, and it's been very, very full on among traveling and doing a lot of other things, is that I have to really structure my time extremely well. And I have to limit the amount of time that I spend answering emails. I have to certainly limit the amount of time that I do my Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, because these things can really eat up the day. And I like to really put my energy towards creativity, towards writing or whatever it might be, even cooking, or and very, very much my daughter. She's 9 now, and as soon as she comes back from school, it's me and her, and it's all focuses on her and what she needs. So it's structure, and I'm getting better at structure. Okay, now the question here, do you advocate going vegetarian, vegan in the book, The Gorgeously Green Diet? How do you eat on a regular basis? And this is from Ina. Ina, yes, I do advocate being vegan and vegetarian where possible. However, in my book, which is my second book, The Gorgeously Green Diet, I don't say you have to be green, you have to be vegetarian, because I really don't believe that's the case. And I regard myself as a flexitarian. And so I eat pretty much, when in Rome, I eat as they do. So if I'm in Italy, I'll eat pasta. If I'm in, I actually come from, obviously I come from England, but the way that I was raised and my grandparents and pretty much our ancestors was a diet that was very much from the Northern Hemisphere. So it was a lot of fish, oily fish, and an enormous amount of meat, because vegetables just weren't available. So I think to tell people that they mustn't eat meat is cuts out a huge audience and can be very off-putting for a lot of people, for cultural or religious or whatever reasons. So I do eat meat, a little bit of meat occasionally, and the quality of that meat, the way that that it's raised, they've raised the animal, is very important to me. But I do advocate absolutely cutting back on meat. And if you can cut back 25, even 50%, and it's actually very easy to do. So most of the week I eat vegetarian or vegan dishes, and then maybe once a week I'll prepare a meat dish. And I think that's kind of doable for most people. How is it living in LA and trying to be green? Do people see it as a fad? And this is from Adriana. So Adriana, no, I don't think people see it as a fad. I think it's been a huge, there's obviously been a huge deal made of green over the last 3 years. And it's been in the media all over the country, and thank goodness it has, because we've really started to raise awareness about the way that we live and maybe look at the way we live and frame it differently. I don't think it's a fad, I really don't. I think we have really barely scratched the surface. And I see it as being something that in the beginning, maybe for the last 2 years, it's like, oh, everyone's going green and hybrid cars and eco this and eco that. And yes, people get a bit sick of it. There's definitely some green fatigue. But I think it's up to the, not actually, I was going to say it's up to the leaders. It's not up to the leaders. It's up to everybody. It's up certainly to the people who speak about it, but it's up to everybody to really take this this burgeoning awareness and to grow it and to run with it. And the way to do that actually is just to keep asking questions. And finally, to answer the other part of your question of what is it like being green in LA, in many ways it's very easy, because there are so many green products and services that are available which aren't in other parts of the country. So whether it's compost services or all the foods that I want to buy that are organic or sustainably grown, all that is very easy. And I think what's hard about it is that I live right in urban Los Angeles, and so it's easy to become very disconnected from nature, because it's not beautiful or green or very clean air, and that is really challenging. Do you prefer living in America or England, and why? I actually prefer living in America. I love England. It's really is my home, and in the sense of it's where I was raised. My parents, all my family and friends, a lot of my friends are there. I've lived in America for about 12 years now, almost 13 years. And I actually prefer America because for the most part, don't let anyone in England hear this. I actually prefer the American mentality. America has been a very welcoming, open-minded, friendly place for me to be. And I think America supports and sort of validates people who want to step out of the box, push the edge of the envelope, and really make a difference. And in England, there can be a little bit of foot dragging or putting down. So for that reason and that reason only, I love living, not that reason only, for that reason I love living here. Things I miss about England, the beautiful, wonderful British countryside, which actually I just recently came back from. And yeah, I really, really miss that. How does your daughter feel about having her mother be a green guru? Is she involved in your green experiments? And this is Lydia. So Lydia, how does my daughter feel? Oh, she'd have a lot to say about this. She could sit here and really fill you in on how she feels about her mom. I think she's really proud. I know she's really proud of the fact that I am this way, because I run a lot of programs at her school. So I run a recycling program at her school where we gather all the cookie wrappers and juice boxes, and I send them into this great company called TerraCycle, and they recycle them, and then they send a check to the school. I've set up a composting program at the school, so the whole school composts, which is fantastic. So she sees me coming in and doing all this, and I think she's kind of secretly really proud that I'm doing that. She's seen me writing away. She's been raised from zero with me being this green mom. And but she jokes about it now, because she's now at that age, she's 9, just turned 9, where there's that little bit of a backlash, and she's just a bit about, Mummy, I had a, whatever it was today that was not organic, and it wasn't green at all, and it was delicious. So she'll sort of try and push my buttons, and I try not to get too serious about the whole thing, because I think with children, you just got to let them. If you get too radical or like a zealot, they're going to go so fast in the other direction. Do you have any advice for inspiring family members to go green? For example, a resisting husband or boyfriend. We were actually just talking about this earlier today. Yes, I do. Actually, I have a husband who is very green, and a lot of I told you so, because he sort of was he's been in this space for many, many years, and but he's more into the sort of energy aspect of it. In terms of products and foods, it's really been a process of attraction rather than promotion, I think. So I think with anything, if I sit there promoting it and saying, we've got to change this or do that or whatever, there's definitely going to be some resistance. And so my advice would be, make it unbelievably attractive. If you're trying to get your husband or boyfriend to eat less meat, well, then get really good at cooking absolutely delicious vegetarian dishes that's going to knock his socks off. If you want him to maybe look at some of his personal care products, shampoo, toothpaste, whatever, rather than saying, this is really toxic, and because you'll get resistance, just go out and get some really enticing, wonderful products. And actually, one of the things that you can do here, and a big old plug for my new book, is Do It in my book, Do It Gorgeously, which is where I show you how to make all your own products, is that it's a fun thing to get family members involved in making some of these products. And so my husband and my daughter have been kind of involved in that, which has really provided a lot of fun and interest from the whole family. Did you ever think your ideas would be on the Oprah or Today Show? Kim, I did not. No, I absolutely didn't. And when I wrote the book, I had no idea. And I remember when I wrote the book, I was so worried. I got my agent, and then I got my a book deal, and it was so exciting. But all the time I was just, my husband remembers many nights of crying, of going, oh, it's not, first off, I'm never going to get an agent, and then it's never going to sell. And he was such a supporter, and he always said, even if we have to sell it from the back of our car at the farmer's market, from the trunk of our car, it's a brilliant book and it's going to sell. So no. So that day when I stood up on that stage with Oprah and Julia Roberts, it really felt like an unbelievably surreal moment. It was very, very strange. What do you like to do in your spare time? I don't have any spare time. That is the answer to that. I literally have none. If I can squeeze a little bit of spare time, the thing that I absolutely love to do is I love to read. I'm a complete reading fanatic. I have a Kindle. I have so many books on my nightstand. I just eat them up. So spare time, if there is any, is reading. What is your favorite green product? And this is from Nina. All right, Nina, I have probably about 50,000 favorite green products. However, one that just came out of nowhere, this is my favorite product, is I have a composter in my garden. And it is, so we're not talking makeup here or designer shoes, and it is called the e-composter. My husband was very worried about this when it arrived in my garden, skeptical, I will say. And it's round, it's like a ball, a big, huge green spherical ball. It looks like a spaceship on a kind of stand. And the reason I got it was because I had some rats in my yard, because I live quite near a creek and a river, so these rats were coming up and smelling the compost and whatnot. So I wanted to get something that nothing, and literally nothing, can get in this thing. It's completely hermetically sealed. And I love my e-composter. So that's my favorite product of the second. Oh, okay. What is the one guilty item that you cannot get rid of the planet? This is Tara. All right, Tara, I'm going to be really honest here. The one thing that I cannot not do, or get the product that I can't use, is highlights for my hair. I'm afraid. I'm ashamed to admit. I wish that I could do a henna kind of, and I've tried all sorts of eco-friendly salons and products and the whole 9 yards, but I will say that to get your hair really bright, it's much easier if you want to go darker. You can use all the wonderful eco-friendly things. If you want bright blonde highlights, bleach highlights. Sorry, everybody. Do you have any beauty tips to share? How do you care for your skin? Okay, I have a gazillion beauty tips to share. And you have to get my new book, Do It Gorgeously, because that will give you every single homemade and do-it-yourself beauty tip that seriously work. That's how I care for my skin, what is in that book. I'm very simple in my routine. I don't do a great big complicated endless serums and things, don't have time. It's got to be very quick for me. I basically start off with, I cleanse with whatever cleanser I have to hand. The really important products for me are vitamin C serum, which I show you how to make in the book. It's also, I think it's on the front of my website right now, but anyway, it's an amazing serum because vitamin C is very important for the collagen and elastin in your skin. In products, it tends to lose its efficacy as soon as it's added to a product, because that's what happens to vitamin C. And so in the serum that I show you how to make, you make this little serum with glycerin and distilled water. You make it every week, so it's really fresh. You add vitamin C powder, you mix it up, and then straight after I've cleansed, it goes straight all over my skin, neck, and chest. Fantastic. And then I add on moisturizers, pretty much ones that I've made myself, which are amazing. And then sunscreen, super important. How much extra time do you devote to chores, cooking, and living if everything you do is as environmentally conscious as possible? Extra time do you devote to chores, cooking? I think I've got this question. I think I understand what this question is. I devote, oh, I see, I get it. I get what the question is now. Does it take longer if everything's eco-friendly? No, it really, truly doesn't. And this is actually a very important message for me that I like to get out there to people, because People often say, well, if you do all this stuff and you make your own cleaning products, which I do, and you make your own yogurt, which I do, etc., you must have all the no, I have no time. It takes me all of probably literally 60 seconds to make my all-purpose cleaners. Boom, 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 boom. I've just sort of get it down. You know, put in the ingredients, I have them all there. Making yogurt, I've got down to probably 3 minutes now to make a big batch of yogurt. I think maybe the one thing that does take more time, I was thinking about this the other day, is I line dry my laundry whenever I can. And I was thinking, oh, this does take a little bit more time. Rather than just throwing it in the dryer, I've got to go down to the end of my yard and peg the stuff out. That being said, I actually find it so therapeutic, because I was raised with my mom. That was my chore for my mom, was like putting the laundry out. So there's something that feels so kind of satisfying and centering after a day of sitting at my computer, of just going and actually pegging out or bringing in freshly dried laundry and the smell of it. So. What is your favorite vacation spot? It is Hawaii, without any shadow of a doubt. I just this year was lucky enough to go and visit the Big Island of Hawaii, and to me it's an eco-friendly paradise, absolute paradise. Just everything on that island is so geared up towards sustainability and simplicity. Organic farms absolutely everywhere. 11 microclimates out of the world's 13 microclimates on this one island. So I should work for the Big Island Tourist Board, but that's my favorite spot. What do you like reading in your spare time? I do like novels, love fiction, but I also love nonfiction. So on my nightstand, I have a mixture, and I go back and forth. I have quite sort of scientific books, because I'm always like reading about science and sort of experiments and how chemicals work together, or about toxicity in certain things. So I'm always sort of keeping abreast of all of that and really self-educating myself. And then when I'm on vacation or on a plane, I will bust out a novel. What websites do you have to check every day? I don't have to check any websites aside from my own every single day. The ones that I like to check into are, I like to go to a lot, funnily enough, I like to go to a lot of the British newspapers. I find their information in certain newspapers to be extremely reliable. So I'll go to the Independent, the Guardian, the Telegraph, the BBC front page, New York Times as well, always the New York Times, and I'll just quickly go over science and health sections of all of the above, and just kind of to see what's going on. How long did it take you to write each one of your books? It took me exactly, the first book took me longer. The first book took me about 1.5 years to write, because it was a first for me. I'd never written a book before. The other books I wrote relatively quickly. The actual writing time was about five months for each book, writing and research. But then the time that it takes for it to go through the channels in terms of putting the whole book together and working with your publisher normally takes about 2 years. In my case, it went a little bit quicker, so that was sort of 1 a year. Which of the Gorgeously Green books was your favorite to write? You know, the first one was fun, but actually the one that was the most fun to write was my last one, Do It Gorgeously. And the reason was because rather than having to do all this intensive research, which I did for my first 2 books, this was more empirical. So I got to go out and, or in fact, turn my own house into a lab. And in my kitchen and bathroom, I was working with oils and butters and essential oils and cooking and bubbling pots and experimenting. And that was so much fun, and testing all these recipes and then writing them down. So for sure, it was Do It Gorgeously. How did you research the content in your books? This is from Lauren. Lauren, research is, I love researching. I really enjoy research. How did I research? I researched in a number of different ways. I went to libraries. I pulled a lot of peer-reviewed articles. I went online, but again, online I've discovered as a writer, and that I have to be incredibly careful, because obviously there's so much misleading information on the web. And so if I found a report or something that was interesting, or I was trying to validate a scientific argument, I would always cross-reference maybe 10 to 15 different sources, and really make sure that they were very well validated, or that they were peer-reviewed. And then also talking to people, a lot of talking to people that own companies, chemical formulators of companies that are, for instance, the Method people, the chemical engineers, Adam Lowry of Method products, and speaking at length to him. And really, I'm so fascinated to find out how he came to these formulations and what's in them and all of that. Any tips for a green Halloween? And this is Kim. Kim, it's coming up. It's that time of year again. Yes, there are some tips. The main tips is really think about packaging. So when you're buying candy, rather than all the little teeny individually wrapped things, I mean, you obviously can't control what candy your kids go and bring into the home, but you can control what you give out. And also sometimes what I tend to do is I make a lot of candy. So I'll make great big bowls or baskets of candy, and you can just give that out at your front door. And the other thing is make your kids or your own costume. That's the challenge I'm going to put out there to everybody this year. I'm absolutely committed to do it. I did it last year for my daughter, who wanted to be a vampire last year, and we made this full-on outfit that turned out to be fabulous. And I made a vampire outfit for my dog as well, my little pooch. What's a typical day like for you? Typical day is very, very busy. I wake up early, pretty early, about around 6 o'clock, and my daughter gets up with me. She's hot to trot after me, talking, lots of chat, lots of questions about the meaning of life, very early in the morning when I'm still in the gown trying to crank the eyes open. But then I whip it all out. I mean, I know you as women and mums out there, it's just on, it's rolling and bursting. And then I often I get out all my yummy things that I make. So I've got homemade granola, I've got homemade yogurt, I baked a loaf of bread, which, by the way, it was in my bread machine, but it took me probably 4 minutes just to throw everything in the night before. Switch the switch on, woke up in the morning, beautiful fresh loaf. So start off with all that, and then it's just kind of off to school, making packed lunches, and I do yoga almost every day. So if I have time to do a yoga class, if not, I'll do my own practice at home. Even if it's 15 minutes or 10 minutes, I make myself do it, and then it's bum into like crazy work day. Do you have any funny going green stories? I have probably quite a lot. How funny they are, I'm not quite sure. I make a lot of mistakes, I'm not the most kind of lateral thinking person. My husband would be that person in our home. So I don't necessarily think things through. I'm quite impulsive. So one of my impulsive actions was that when I was figuring out how best to dry clothes in my yard, what was the best kind of model of line to have, I came across this umbrella rotary line thing, and I was so unbelievably excited about it that I got it. I ordered it, and it's like that somebody brought it to my home, and it turned out that it was so enormous, this thing, and I actually have a very small backyard, and it was like the span of this umbrella almost kind of took over my entire yard. And I was like, oh, when it came in. And I felt so bad that this guy had shown up that I couldn't say, like, I don't want it. And then he said that he had to drill into the concrete, like my lovely old bricks in my yard. And I was like, oh. And my husband walked in literally at the minute that this guy had a drill about to drill. And he was like, what are you even thinking? So we've got a lot of those, what are you even thinking about? It went never to come back again, needless to say, and we now have a kind of, what is it called, a retractable line. How did you become friends with Julia Roberts, and what green tips do you give her? From Susan. So Susan, I became friends with Julia because my husband is friends with her husband, and Danny, and so she and I met each other through that. And what green tips? I give Julia every green tip imaginable. And the wonderful thing about Julia is that she's so open and hungry for these tips, everything. So you can say, Julia, what about this? Or do you want to try this, make your own product? She's saying, yes, 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 bring it on, show me, I'll do it. And I just love that about her. Does your home have any spectacular green features? No, it doesn't have any spectacular green features. It has lots of very humble green features. And they're green features that probably, that everybody can do. So I'm not your girl with big, huge grey water systems, solar panels everywhere, wind turbines, not me. As I said, very normal home in urban Los Angeles. But everywhere you look, there's green things that I'm doing, whether it's drought-free garden, whether it's an organic vegetables that I'm growing, whether it's the line for drying my clothes, whether it's my compost, whether it's, you know, wherever you look, you will totally see that I am doing everything within the situation that I found myself in to be as green as I can. So who is your favorite eco designer? My favorite eco designer is, there's a designer, a clothes designer that's in Los Angeles here. And she is called, her company is called Raw Earth Wild Sky. And she is phenomenal. And why I love her is that, you know, with a lot of, not a lot, you know, there can be a bit of greenwashing with eco-design. And so I tend to really look for designers who I know walk the walk and through every aspect of their production are really green. So they're sustainable, they use sustainable materials. I would like them to be made in the US. I really do. That's important to me. And I've seen that these sacrifices and the compromises and the cuts that these women, another one is Stewart and Brown, who I believe are doing the chat next week. And these people are serious about what they do, and they really have a conscience. And they make clothes that are perhaps a little bit more expensive, but they're beautifully made. And we were talking about this before, that you know, they're t-shirts and shirts that won't pill and won't be thrown away after 6 months. They'll be items that you know, that I certainly treasure. What's the biggest challenge you've encountered in trying to live your life more consciously? The biggest challenge is probably, that's a really good question. I think partly my own laziness would be a challenge. I can be absolutely subject to laziness every now and again. I'm so aware of it when I think, oh, I can't be bothered to take my scraps into the compost bin, and then I sort of have to catch myself. In terms of challenge, I think it's got to be living in America. It's got to be driving, because in an ideal world, I would love to be able to drive less. I would love to be able to bicycle or walk everywhere, and or take public transport. When I was in London, I just virtually never used the car. I was on the bus or the tube all the time, and so living here, it challenges my sense of green to have to be in a car as much as I am. Do you like to focus on domestic or international green trends and news? I like to focus on domestic because this is where I live, and this is and the people in America are my readers, and it's who I speak to and communicate with. So this is truly what I focus on. But I also like to keep an eye out for what other countries are doing. Really interested in what China's doing now, really interested in what Japan's doing, because I think we probably are going to wind up interestingly learning quite a lot from them, and also interested in certain countries in Europe like Sweden that's a real forerunner in green, and seeing what we can maybe learn and put into practice here as consumers. Is there a mantra, quote, that represents the way you try to live your life? Yes, there is. There's a quote that I absolutely love, and it is by Goethe. And it is, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it now. Boldness has magic and genius in it. Begin it now. And that's what I try to live by, because I can have every good intention. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and intentions don't cut it. It's action that cuts it. And when I get into action, then that magic can happen. So that I try to live by that. What was your first job? I think my first job was probably when I was my daughter's age, stocking shelves at a grocery store in this teeny little village near where we lived. But I was an actress in my other life, and I have done my fair share of appalling jobs. Trust me, like horrible jobs. How can you stay healthy? How can you stay healthy in an eco-friendly way? Are gyms okay? So I think what this means more is how can you stay fit in terms of in shape. Gyms are okay, absolutely, but it's good to realize that gyms are very energy intensive. Plus you've got to get there, get back, park, and the whole thing can be an energy intensive nightmare. What I try and do is I try and work out as much as I can at home, even doing yoga practice at home. And I found that because my day is so busy and I have such little time, I've developed these really great home workout practices. For instance, I'll do what's called a kettlebell workout, where I have this Russian kettlebell. And I love it because I do a DVD workout, and after 10 minutes, my heart rate is through the roof and I'm exhausted. And I also do a couple of other home DVDs. And as I said, yoga is absolutely my favorite health-enhancing exercise. You used to be an actress. What productions were you in? I was an actress when I was in England, and I did tons of productions. I started off I almost completely did theatre with spatterings of TV here and there. And I worked with a wonderful writer called Alan Ayckbourn, he's probably one of the most prolific playwrights alive. And so I worked with him a lot and took many of his plays to London's West End. And then I worked also a lot with the Royal Shakespeare Company. So that was my passion, was theatre. Yes, have you ever thought of starting your own product line? Yes, I've thought and thought about it. And I absolutely have so many products that I would be passionate about formulating. I am passionate about formulating and wanting to, but it's pretty much a matter of time right now. And so I'm just putting my priorities in place, but I think that's definitely in the near future. If you weren't an activist writer, what would you be? What would I want to be? I think I'd want to be a sculptor or an artist, like a painter artist. I've always seen people who've had that kind of talent and been so in awe of it, because it just seems like it is such a God-given talent. And I would love to have that talent whereby I did something all day that was so soulful and beautiful and just put me in that zone. So I think that's what I would be. Do you have a cause or organization that you're passionate about? Many, 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 many. I have so many organizations. Two that come to mind are, I'm a great one for e-activism. I think that we can be so powerful by taking action online, by signing petitions. It's how many things have changed actually in the world that we now in our world now through e-activism. So I like NRDC, which is the National Resources Defense Council. I like them because it's an organization of lawyers, and because they're lawyers, they work very hard to create change on incredibly important policies regarding the environment. And so I go regularly, almost every day, onto their site, and I'll just pick what I'm interested in and sign a petition. I'm also very passionate about a organization, a charity that I support, which is called Cancer Link. I'll talk about that at the end, but there's two amazing women who help cancer patients, and they personally help them by taking a non-toxic house cleaning service to them when they're going through treatment. What inspires you? Enthusiasm inspires me. Passion and enthusiasm. Whenever I meet somebody who's passionate about what they do, whatever it is, it can be anything, but that inspires me and it makes me want to, it's sort of infectious. And so what inspires me is absolutely, hands down, is inspiring people. And there are a lot of them, thankfully, about nowadays. Do you support any specific legislation or politicians? Why or why not? You know, I don't actually. I don't stick my neck out to do that. There's a lot of legislation that I support and don't support. Probably a little too complicated to get in here now. But in terms of you know, being a speaker in this space, I find that I don't want to go there politically, because green can be such a political issue, and I don't think it should be. I think it should be absolutely apolitical and bipartisan and everything else. So I think it's a space that I sort of try to stay out of. What's next for you and Gorgeously Green? Well, there's lots and lots of things. I am talking about, to many people actually, about the development of a television show, which I'm very excited about. Much of what I'm doing is very much geared towards doing it yourself and showing. It's very much geared around my new book, Do It Gorgeously, which is really exciting to me. And I think in a way it's a slightly different way of framing green, because the idea of living gorgeously is a very broad umbrella, and implicit in that is, you know, when I take actions that are right, or actions for, you know, for the good, for the betterment of the planet, it makes me feel really gorgeous from the inside out. So there's that, and a possible product line, and also another book. So lots of things. What kind of car do you drive? I drive boring, but I drive a Prius hybrid, which I absolutely love this car. I'm actually going next week with a friend of mine who's bought an old, clapped out, old American car, and she's having it changed into a biodiesel type of situation, but also an engine that can take vegetable oil. So we're going to go and visit Jack in the Box and see if we can get their vegetable oil. Okay. How was your experience being on the Oprah show? Did you ever think that that would happen to you? From Adriana. My experience was so much fun. No, I didn't think that would ever happen to me. And it was really fun, because sitting in that studio audience, as I was just before I went up on the stage, I never realized how electric the atmosphere is in that room, the energy is. And I think it's because people have I think they've waited for sort of up to 4 years to get a ticket to sit in that audience. So you're sitting there with all these people that are just on the edge of their seats with excitement to see Oprah live. And also, as a guest, you don't meet her before. She likes to just meet her guests for the first time on the stage. So it was really fun, and it was terrifying as well. It was really scary. What's the most adventurous thing you've done in the pursuit of going green? Do you know what? I don't think I've done anything that adventurous. I'd like to think I'm not a very sort of skydiving adventurous kind of person, but I have some adventurous things planned on my list to do in terms of travel, in terms of wanting to find out things about green living. So I'll keep you posted on that. Have I ever wanted to write fiction? Yes. Oh, yes, I have. And in fact, the book that I wrote before I wrote Gorgeously Green, I actually wrote a novel, and it's for tweens, and it has a green theme to it. So that one might be dusted off, because my passion when I was 9 years old, that was my passion, was writing fiction. Okay, from the sublime to the ridiculous, or to the mundane. What's the best way to clean carpets or rugs without chemicals? Okay, this is so easy. There is absolutely no need to spend money on expensive and often toxic carpet and upholstery cleaners. The best thing you can do is a baking soda or washing soda crystals, which are made by Arm & Hammer. And if I have a stain on my carpet, then I will just make a solution with very, very hot water and baking soda, or these washing soda crystals, which are amazing, and just scrub. Also, what I sometimes do is, before I vacuum, in a measuring jug, I'll put some baking soda and I'll add a few drops of lavender essential oil, so that you'll perfume that baking soda. And then I'll just sprinkle that all over the rug or carpet, leave it for maybe half an hour, and then vacuum it off. And the best thing for stains on upholstery, couches, chairs, is exactly the same. You make that solution, not with the lavender oil, by the way, just the baking soda, because you don't want oil on your couch, obviously, on a stain, and then just get a rag and rub it in. You have a New York Times bestseller. How do you feel about that accomplishment? Did you see it as a signal that there is mass interest in a more eco-friendly life? And this is Sandy. Sandy, thanks for that question. Yes, I did. I cannot tell you how exciting it was when I found out that it was a New York Times bestseller. I was over the moon, because I thought, that a green book that is just this book that is encouraging women, it was my original vision to live a different way of life, could have sold that many books, is absolutely testament to, I think, people, women particularly, wanting something different. And I so believe that, our awareness is changing, and that we all feel that we have a birthright on some level to clean air, food, and water. And particularly as mothers, when you have a baby, you really feel that. And the growing awareness that we don't have that is kind of shocking and distressing. And I think many women now are like, come on, what can we do? We want to see a difference here. What green brands or companies first inspired you? Oh, that's a great question. When I was researching for Gorgeously Green for my first book, I wanted to include a lot of companies and resources in my book, so that if I was saying, well, avoid eco-friendly cleaners or avoid toxic beauty, then I wanted to give you an alternative that you could then go, okay, but what shall I buy now? And so every single company that I researched, that I recommend, I heavily researched that company, and still do now. Anything that you see on my website has to pass many different criteria, as far as I'm concerned, before I'll recommend it. Companies that inspired me, there were so many beauty companies actually that inspired me with their stories, that most of them had a story. That's what I love about green eco-friendly companies, whether it's a cleaning product like Method, whether it's a beauty company like Suki, or whatever it might be. There's often a story. My mum got cancer, and then I decided that I was going to devote my life to creating this line, or my brother got sick, or my children got allergies, so I created this non-toxic car wash, which was a company called Lucky Earth. So, many companies really inspired me. What are your hobbies? Let's see. Hobbies. My main hobby is cooking. I absolutely love cooking, and I cook almost every night, like really cook, like a full-on meal. And not because I have to, but because I really enjoy it. And I love cooking for my husband and my daughter. It's nothing more pleasing than seeing them going, oh, this is amazing. And I also find it, I'm very greedy. I love eating as well. So I plan, you know, like as I'm going to sleep that night, I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for breakfast. I'm kind of that kind of greedy. So cooking, yes. What is the most difficult thing to make, prepare out of all the DIY projects you propose? All right, so I propose hundreds of DIY projects in my book. I would say all the skincare ones are really easy. They're really easy. Once you've done it once, it's like a very simple cooking recipe, you're done. Difficult would be curtains, probably, sewing. Because sewing for me is a real challenge. I've never had sewing lessons, and I give a few sewing projects in the book, but they're like basically if I can do it, you can do it. Like making my daughter a nightdress out of an old pillowcase. It's using old things, making boot trees instead of buying plastic ones. But sewing, and to that end, I'm actually going to take sewing lessons because I'm bound and determined. I've seen a dress that I really want, which is a designer dress. I saw it in Vogue, the British Vogue this month, and I'm going to make it. I'm going to try. Wish me luck. Time is a factor for mothers. What are small but important things we can do every day? Yeah, time is a huge factor. What are quick things that we can do every day? I think a really quick thing that you can do is, I think it's quick that you can make your own cleaning products. I think that is super, super quick, and you will save so much money. I mean, instead of paying X amount, $3, $4, $5 for a spray, you'll make it for 20 cents a bottle, and it's quick. Little quick things that you can do is I have a compost caddy on my counter, and it encourages me to keep all my scraps, but it's so quick because it just sits there. Take the lid off. As I'm chopping and cooking, I just throw my scraps, boom, they're in there. And it has a carbon filter in the lid, so even if they stay there for 3 or 4 days, it doesn't smell at all. And then, once or twice a week, I take it down to the compost bin. That's a really quick and easy tip that you can do. And there are hundreds more. What is the must-try recipe or project from your book? It's in the plural. Well, I'm going to talk about Do It Gorgeously, my most recent book. I would say the must-try, I'm going to say there are 2 must-try recipes. The first is the vitamin C serum. That's a must-try recipe because it's so easy, so inexpensive. Anybody, my husband can do it, my daughter can make it, and it costs really next to nothing for each little bottle. So that's one. And as I said, I think there's a how-to video on the front of my website as we speak on that one. And the other, I would say, it's a toss-up between, if you want to get fancy and make a beautiful anti-aging face oil that is just the most potent and beautiful thing that you could, more so than anything you could buy, do the India Rose Luxurious Face Oil. And if you're not up to that, it would be the all-purpose cleaning spray. Who do you admire? I admire so many people. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say, okay, gosh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say for sure it's going to be Oprah. I'm going to say for sure it's going to be Richard Branson. I really admire, because why I admire Richard Branson is that he's doing some incredible things in the green space now that not many people know about, and he's not afraid. He absolutely puts my quote into life of whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it now. He just does it. So he's doing some really interesting things. And then I think I've also got to say, Al Gore, and not necessarily for me for the book The Inconvenient Truth that we, or most of us know, his movies and all that, but for me, I really admire his commitment throughout the whole of his career, going years and years and years back to sort of starting off this whole sort of drumbeat of this movement. And his earlier books I absolutely love. What did you want to be when you were a little girl? I wanted to be a writer and an actress. That's it. So I was very lucky. Do you have a bucket list? If so, what are some of the items on your list? Yes. I actually haven't got I haven't written it all down. I've probably got a mental list. Maybe I should write it down. I want to do so many things. I want to travel. Most of my bucket list is to do with traveling places and seeing different cultures and really spending some time soaking up, whether it's being in Tibet or traveling. I'm just sort of fascinated. I think in maybe another job that I would have liked apart from being a sculptor would have been an anthropologist. I'm sort of fascinated to see how other cultures live. And so that would be very much on my bucket list, is places to go and really discovering how other people do things and how other people live. Going green seems expensive. Is there anything you can do initially to cut costs? Look, going green absolutely does not have to be expensive. And actually, I think that it isn't. I don't think it really has to be at all. Yes, if you think that you've got to put solar panels all over your house, if you've got to drive a hybrid car, if you've got to buy completely organic food, but these are extremes that most people, most regular people, don't do, can't do, and won't do. So in the run of your everyday life, let's think of green in terms of healthy. It's health. That's the jumping off point. You know, how can I best protect my family, my health, my family's health on an everyday basis? Well, that would be things like, simple things like, you know, making sure I don't have toxic cleaning products in my house. Make your own. That's not going to cost you anything. That's going to save you money. The same with shampoo, you know, personal care products. Another thing would be, you know, all the actions that you're taking in terms of saving water, saving energy, line drying your clothes, saving you money, and all the little things about protecting your health. A tip here would be make sure you vacuum, really well vacuum your home twice a week with a vacuum with a HEPA filter, because part of what makes the air quality so bad in your home is fire retardants, and these chemicals live and sit in the dust around the electronics in your home. So these are actions that you can take that don't cost anything. So don't ever think that green needs to be cost prohibitive. You can take 150 actions tomorrow that won't cost you anything. You used to be a yoga teacher. What's your favorite pose? I did used to be a yoga teacher, and I think my favorite pose is a pose called Vipariti Karani, and that is a pose which basically is translated from Sanskrit into legs up the wall pose. And it's a pose for when you're really stressed out and tired, or even having a panic attack. It's a great pose for calming yourself. And you basically lie on some blankets with your legs up the wall, and you cover your eyes with an eye pillow, and you breathe deeply, and it's magical for releasing stress. How did you come up with a logo for Gorgeously Green? Well, you know, I work with my husband a lot on this, because my husband and I have our little creative brainstorming sessions almost every night. He's such a partner with me with all of this. And all of our ideas just come off our kitchen table after dinner at night. And when we were thinking about it, we both of us felt very drawn towards the sort of pin-up girl, not the trashy pin-up girl, but the very beautiful, elegant pin-up girls of the Vargas area, the Vargas girl, because I felt that what that spoke was an elegance and a glamour, and a beautiful elegance and glamour, and also something that was a little bit fun and naughty as well. So we felt that sort of pin-up girl really encapsulated that. What's my favorite music to listen to? I love every kind of music. From my daughter's into musicals, so I'm always listening to these Broadway musicals to her, to my husband's a musician, so a lot of rock music. But I think ultimately, if I had to pick one musician, it would be a composer, and it would be Mozart. I love Mozart. What is your favorite book? My favorite book, oh gosh, I have so many. If it was Desert Island and I had to pick one book to take to a desert island, it would be the works of Shakespeare, for sure, because that has poetry and prose and inspiration and love and art and everything in it. What tips can you share on staying green while traveling? Food, travel products. Great, great question. Okay, so what I do is I've got this here. This is my tea tiger, and I take this everywhere with me, and it is a thermos glass that I put a scoop of green tea or black tea in the bottom of it, fill it with boiling water, it stays warm for hours, drink it on the plane, and then I can get them to just fill it up with hot water. So I never travel without that. Another thing is to make your own hand sanitizing spray, and the recipe is in Do It Gorgeously. And I never go anywhere without this spray. When I get on a plane, I spray it on my hands, and then I spray it on the little console in front and on anything that I'm going to touch basically on a plane. Also in hotels, if I'm kind of a little bit weird about the bedspread or whatever, that spray just gets sprayed all over, and it smells amazing as well. Okay, so we're out of time, and I thank you so much for all your questions and for joining me today. And I really want to thank again Tom's of Maine for inviting me to come along for this great Wicked Fresh chat series. And you know, I'm a great supporter of people and organizations that are really aiming to do good. And you know, I know that Tom's of Maine is definitely a company that is helping to make people and the planet healthier. So I'm all for that. And I also want to get you to see if you can go along to this charity, this company that I fully support, which is CancerLink. It's www.cancerlink.org. And why I love them is really, honestly, it's two inspiring women. And I met them in New York just a couple of months ago, and they go to people's houses, cancer patients who are undergoing treatment, and they've realized that regular cleaning products are toxic, really toxic if you're going through chemo or whatever. And so they are changing that, and they're providing this service, and they need funding, so I'm trying to help them. So thanks for being with me. Have a great evening, and I hope to see you all on the internet, in cyberspace along the way. Thank you.